My name is Sarah McEnany, and I'm an artist, and I've lived in the Callow Hill neighborhood for 33 years. I started the Reading Viaduct project with my neighbor and friend John Struble in late 2003. When the trains stopped running in 1984, I took a few walks on it back in the early days and then didn't walk on it so much until later around 2000. And in late 2003, myself and John Struble, we started Reading Viaduct project, which is dedicated to the preservation and reuse of the Reading Viaduct as public green space. So for 9 years, we've been lobbying and advocating that the abandoned train tracks become an elevated park. Now, anyone who's interested, we've taken up on the viaduct, and it's probably the most effective tool to successful advocacy for it being a park, because when people get on it, if they hadn't gotten the idea before, they get it as soon as they get up on it. And they're elevated above the city streets on a sort of spontaneous park. So when I say that most people really like the idea from the start, but there are people that had a hard time understanding it or supporting it. And I think most of there was some opposition to the idea originally, mostly from the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation. PCDC thought it would be a better idea to tear the viaduct down. But when studies were done looking at the cost of demolition as opposed to the cost of remediation into a park, it actually costs more money to tear it down than it does to turn it into a park. So that land wouldn't be very affordable because it was such an expense to tear the viaduct down. So, it's been a really long process, but these things take time. And 9 years after we started, we are at the beginning. We've already had community design meetings for the first small section. And hopefully, if all goes well in terms of funding, construction could start as early as next year on the first section of the park. So as I said, we spent many years just talking to people and lobbying different people, funders, city officials, politicians, nonprofits, architects, planners, horticultural groups, just getting them on the viaduct. And in 2009, we were contacted by Paul Levy of Center City District. He came back to Philadelphia and said, I got it. I think he didn't understand it until he saw the New York City High Line, and he contacted us and wanted to take a walk on the viaduct. So we took on the walk on the viaduct with Paul Levy and Nancy Goldenberg, also from Center City District, and David Seltzer, who has a small foundation called Poor Richard's Charitable Trust. And we took them out for a walk on the viaduct, and they immediately got to work. They have, a wonderful nonprofit, Center City District, which does a lot of work. We are just outside the boundaries of Center City District, but they're concerned with a lot of Philadelphia, and they got to work, helping, looking at studies, getting a new study done. So that made a big difference once we had an organization that had a lot of resources to sort of take it on as a project they wanted to help shepherd through. So we continue to work with them as sort of the neighborhood liaisons, but they have really taken it on as a project that they are helping move along. And we also are going to continue to be involved because the city has said they want the viaduct to be part of the city park system. Almost any park you can think of, probably in the whole country, has some kind of friends group that helps keep parks in good shapes because they, especially urban parks, are used a lot. So we are looking at how we can help raise funds to maintain the park once we have a fabulous park. So I said I'm an artist, and my work is autobiographical and narrative. And sort of through my work, you can almost see a little bit of a history of the neighborhood. And now that I've spent a lot of time working on the Viaduct project, that's come into the work as well. So I've made paintings where the viaduct is just sort of might be just a small component in a cityscape where you see it cutting through across the street over next to a building. Because I know a lot of people in the neighborhood, I've gotten into some of the buildings that have tall, 10-story building or a 6-story building with views looking down on the viaduct. So my community work of advocating for a great park has become intertwined with my studio work. I would love to always serve in some sort of advisory way. I look forward to that day because that'll mean it's really moving forward.